been a minute since a podcast has come out of these airwaves, and we were busy building a bar.
Definitely two main things: ignorance and poverty.
There's 5 partners in Gnarly Hustle. All of them were involved in this and have been integral. And like literally, without all of them at different parts and multiple different parts throughout the period of this, we wouldn't have been able to get it.
This one has a lot of hair. This one has a normal amount of hair. It's Pat and Alex. This one was born in Raytown. This one lives in Raytown. They opened a store in the pandemic, and this is a show about it. Hustle and bustle, hustle and bustle, hustle and bustle. Here is the show.
That'll take forever.
Perfect. Ready?
Hello and welcome back to Hustle and Bustle. I'm Pat.
I'm Alex.
This is the We're Back episode. It's it's been a minute since a podcast has come out of these airwaves, and we were busy building a bar.
Very busy. It's
Yeah.
finally here, as you can see.
Yep, as evidenced by what's behind us. No more really is there a podcast studio, too.
No, it's now a storage for beer and clothes studio.
Yeah, it's mostly inventory. Turns out we're going to need that room to make some money at some point, and this is that point. Also, the magic of podcasting, you can basically do it anywhere. We're wired up today, but you can be pretty Bluetooth and wireless and do it from just about anywhere. So there will still be probably quite a bit of podcasting coming out of this building, but it might look a little bit different. So now we're at a bar. We got one. That's where we're going to podcast to you from today. What, it's been, I don't know how long it's been since we posted.
I should have looked it up. I mean, May, June?
It hasn't really been that long, yeah.
Maybe we got a couple episodes out in July. I don't know. But we kind of put the hard hats on and went underground for like at least 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been crazy. I mean, look, it's 3 years ago, I think, this bar, Dylan built this bar 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The time hops on Facebook come back to remind us. So just, I don't know, 3 years of a thought, an idea, culmination, probably a month, 3 weeks of really hard, hellish work toward a timeline, toward a deadline, all hands on deck. And now we're on the other side of that a little bit.
Yeah. It's hard to kind of fully bask in it because I'm about to leave immediately.
You're going to, tell the world what you're about to do.
Yeah. I get it. We can skirt into that for a second. Well, I'm eloping with my fiance to Austria. Mm-hmm. Going international. Never been across the Pacific, Atlantic.
Either, apparently.
Specifically the Atlantic. And yeah, so I'll be gone for 2 weeks, which is weird to open a bar and then leave.
I don't, but not too, considering the week it was, or the weeks it was leading up to the opening, a 2-week vacation sounds pretty nice right now. Not that that's exactly what it is, but it's a wedding still.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't mind the Amalfi Coast, I don't think, right now.
No, it's going to be, yeah. So we're going to go to Austria and then Italy for a few days and then visit her brother who's stationed in Germany and then come back to this.
So a couple weeks ago, you weren't a bar owner and you were a single man. In a couple weeks, you'll be a bar owner and a married man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of life.
It's a lot of change really quickly.
Which I think is a way to sum up Gnarly Hustle. Like, honestly, we started this as 5 single dudes, and now we're pretty all wifed up at the moment.
Yeah.
And 5 single dudes. I think almost none of us had the jobs we had when we started this. And 2
of them own houses.
And I mean, like, I'm in my late 30s. You guys are like age 22 to 26, 7.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of when a lot of life tends to happen.
Yeah.
But so it's been a lot of life and continued to be a lot of life. And so there's a lot of shit going on at Gnarly Hustle. But now it surrounds the bar. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that for a second. We had a thrift store. We decided that we needed to figure out how to monetize all the square footage, I think was how the bar really kind of came to be. We're like, if we're going to be back here, we're going to be drinking and having parties, let's have a bar to go with it and figuring out how to monetize that.
Yeah. I say, like, I don't know who said it, but you build a team around a keg, not around kale. And so, like, we wanted to do a community kind of like centered brand. And so yeah, the best way to monetize and build a community, I think, is with a little bit of beer.
Well, I think probably a little context helps there. I mean, we tried when we first opened to build community around nothing, just around a space, just around walls and an idea.
Yeah.
And we had friends come and have a good time, but it didn't really result in a building of business or that community really growing. So you just look around, and it seems like adults tend to gather around food or drinks or coffee. That community for community's sake, the older you get, the less that kind of becomes something that we all transparently take in. So, we also started to have events, and we've had live music. And you know what you need to monetize live music? Beer. And so we're like, God dang. And really one of the driving events, we started an event. We thought it was going to be awesome. We sold tickets to it to people we'd never met. This adult prom idea we were going to throw here.
Yeah.
We're like, holy shit, there's actually getting some traction. Like, the first spark of virality. And then we got slapped with the cease and desist because it turns out it was illegal what we were going to do.
Yeah. Can't sell tickets for booze if you don't have a liquor license.
So somewhere all in that, we decided we needed to have a bar. Why did it take so long to get one open? Because we've been talking about it on this very podcast for years before we had one.
Yeah, I definitely two main things: ignorance and poverty, which probably explains a lot. If you had a little bit more money and knew a little bit more what you were doing, you could probably get it done quicker.
Yeah,
but that was mostly it. Like, we didn't have the cash flow to make mistakes, and like mistakes are how you learn things the fastest. So like we had to find the cheapest architect who took way too long to do the drawings.
We made a really cheap mistake, is what we did. Is we hired an architect. So like, you have to have, we get everybody in here. What can we do to sell alcohol? That's not a thing that's in our business license. It's not something we're licensed to do. We get all the appropriate government agencies together, and then they tell us you need a bathroom.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in order to get a bathroom, you have to have a licensed architect, and generally they need an engineer to sign on as well. We go get bids, $9,000, $7,000, $6,000, and we're like, we don't have that kind of fucking money, and we're not going to come up with that money.
And like, also, cards on the table, I forget about this. A year prior to doing this, when we had just come up with the idea, we took out a loan.
We did.
For $20,000.
Yes.
And we spent it everywhere except for where we needed to spend it.
Well, if you want to rehash that, we spent it keeping the doors open. I mean, that got us through the winter.
That's true. A large part of that went into operations.
Lots of months. Because when we first opened this building, kind of happened to us like Saturday, the grand opening. We're skipping all over the place, but Saturday, the grand opening was great. Record sales at the register up front on close, and we had no idea what to expect back here, but we were super happy with the number we got back here. Combined, they got over the mark that we were looking for. The next day, we sold 2 beers. And they were to my brother and sister-in-law, like, at the end of the night. So it was like, all right, Saturday, man, if that's what our data point is, what our marker is, like, how can we extrapolate off of that? Well, that's awesome. Then Sunday, crickets. And it was just a reminder of that was the exact same thing when we first opened the brick and mortar. And then it was 2 years of grindingly trying to get people to come in the fucking door.
Yes.
And still to this day, articles later, hundreds of thousands of views on Reels later, there are people that walk in and say, well, I've been driving past here for 4 or 5 years, and now I'm just popping in for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's like...
relate to.
That's the way that the world works.
Yeah.
But like, it was fist fighting just getting people in here, and as a store to begin with. And so in those months, we still had overhead, we still had bills to pay.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, largely the money we thought we were going to seed, we did. I mean, we've had these TVs back here for too long, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been the first purchase. The first check should have been written to an architect. If we go back in time, that's what we would have done.
Yeah.
And we would have been here faster, probably. But also, we would have had to come up with cash to get...
It would have, all would have...
come out in the wash, But largely speaking, we had to put in a bathroom, and then that was really expensive to do it legally. Commercially, it's not like putting in a bathroom in your house, not even close. There's a lot more regulation.
Not
right?
cool.
So found myself sliding a little bit closer to the Republican on the scale of political spectrum.
Deregulation.
Yeah, but it just that was why it took so long, because we didn't have a lot of money, and it cost money to do things by the book.
Yeah, and so like you have to ask for favors, and favors aren't on a they're not getting compensated, so you're just at the mercy of when they're available.
Well, let's talk about the next big mistake we made. We did get an architect.
Yeah, okay.
We paid him $1,000 up front. Well, basically, we got $1,000. We paid him $1,000.
Fernando.
Probably not licensed.
No, certainly not.
Certainly not licensed. So that didn't work out very well. So we had these drawings, and then I had to like convince a real architect to
use the drawings
to like actually get us proper.
But like, it's speaking of time, like it took him a month to get the drawings, and then it took us a while for them to be submitted, and then when we needed changes, it took like another month to get a hold of him.
Like proof of certification.
Yeah. So like it wasn't just like a time, but like there were like it ate up 4 months of doing nothing because we were just waiting on approved a piece of paper.
And that architect who ended up helping us out was someone we went to a year prior, before we ever went to the not licensed architect.
Yeah.
And just got crickets in an email because of what was going through that person's life. But they ended up giving us a huge favor.
Dude, yeah.
And without them, we wouldn't be here. Like we would have been banging our heads against that wall for longer. But like we reached out to that person. Got crickets because of, that's how life works, just how I don't respond to emails all the time.
Yeah.
A year later, they're in a position to help us out. Bing, bang, boom. Now we're through.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that that was what it was like trying to get this thing open without any money, which is kind of like this whole thing has been building a business without any money.
Yeah, really. A business started by poor people for poor people.
Yeah.
But, it is... There was a point where like the bar was going to be where the bathroom is, and the bathroom was going to be over here.
Right.
So there's just been like money and ignorance.
Yeah.
But like now we have that. It's crazy now where if someone were to give me a
we
garage,
don't have much money.
Yeah.
Still, we got plenty of ignorance left.
But if someone were to say, "Here's a garage, build a bar in it,"
you'd have a better idea.
I would feel like, okay, we could do this.
Yeah. I mean, that honestly is the way that it all works, and. The thing, I was Mr. Idea guy forever, but like entrepreneurship is just having the wherewithal and the willingness to like take ideas and fist fight them to reality as far as you can.
Yeah.
And it is a really hard thing to do. And the bigger your idea, the harder that thing is, especially the less resources you have. And so that's kind of the uphill battle we've been doing. But we are to a point where the bar is scalability. And this is a conversation I find us having. Like, we wanted to get more resellers of a community. We've started engaging that, I'd say, in the last year, re-engaging in that community, intentionally. And they're here now, right? Like, we ran a reseller event before we opened the bar, and not that many people showed up. Since then, we've had random nights be more of a reseller, roundtable than... Without ever intentionally doing it, without ever calling in, without anybody showing up to do it. So already, community is starting to organically form. It's been really cool to see, like, the first regulars... there's already been 3 or 4 or 5 return customers within 5 days of bar business even being capable or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really super fun to watch.
One thing I keep reminding myself, especially because like I consume, and if you're an entrepreneur, you probably do the same, just like a lot of other entrepreneurship content.
Yeah.
And like unless you're Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or whoever did Uber, like it's going to be really fucking hard. Like, it is a fist fight.
Yeah.
Like, your idea might be correct, but, like, you don't know how to do the idea, so you got to, like, fist fight your way there.
Yeah. I mean, in anything you do, I end up going back to sports analogies a lot, and rugby analogies is just where I spend a ton of time. But we have used this analogy. We've been getting better this entire time. I saw a meme that says, like, the first 5 years of business isn't where you get rich, it's where you get good. And that resonated with me. First, because we haven't gotten rich in the first 5 years, but we are getting better, and I think that's undeniable. Like, our social media content's getting better. I wrote something where I was like, dude, if you saw Alex's first attempt to talk on camera, you wouldn't think that's the same fucking person.
I want to put it out. I just got to figure out the funniest way to do it.
Right. So, like, there's no doubt we're getting better as a business at everything that we're doing. And, like, people who've come in and they're just, without even walking to the back of the house here, they just see the clothes and their socks are knocked off compared to the last time that they were in, right? And there's just some lessons that we're learning. That's what I was getting to, was scalability. It was about building community when we were going to the bar, but ultimately one of the big drivers is scalability, and it's a conversation I've been having with a lot of these resellers. At the end of the day now, like, this is a scary place to be. We're jumping off this diving board. All of our bills were paid by going out, finding clothes at a really cheap price, selling them to you at a really fair price, but still at a significant markup, and doing that over and over and over and over again. That's not really scalable unless you're going to be able to clone Alex's and Pat's that can go out and do that. That becomes an acquired skill that's not easy to do. You can't just copy and paste. You have to teach it. It's learned. Something we were bad at when we first started, and we got better at it.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to scale our business. You know, no matter how well we're doing, it's hard to scale it. Now, the front is all consignment.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier to scale. Now, if I want to get 100 new pieces of clothes, or if I lose a vendor, I don't have to go find 100 pieces of clothes. That's hundreds of hours.
So you have to find one vendor.
I have to find one vendor. The trade-off is we used to get probably 80 to 90% profit margins. Now it's like less than 20% profit margins.
Yeah.
That's the trade-off. Store's a lot better, but it's scalable and it's sustainable. And we had to do that in order to operate this back bar. And you know, for us to go from selling X amount of shirts to selling 100X of that was not possible for what I just lined out. But on beer, that is pretty fucking possible.
Yeah.
That's scalable. I can order more beer. Don't have to find it. They got distributors for that shit, and they can sell more beer than we could sell.
Yeah.
So, like, that's largely kind of one of the drivers has been getting us to a place where what we're doing here is scalable, and we can increase our profit and revenue without multiplying time, which is now, I would say, the most finite resource around here.
Yeah, that's a big lesson that I learned real heavy probably at the beginning of this year was time. Like, you hear everyone, 24 hours is so little, and I'd been working at that, but then, like, when you go day for day for day for day, like not finishing 30 minutes or an hour worth of tasks, then you get to the end of the month and, like, you're a week behind.
Yeah.
And you're like, how the fuck did that happen? I worked like 8 to 12 hours every day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's not, you just got to prioritize. And so finding ways to make more time for yourself, because it is extremely valuable, becomes more and more important.
Yeah.
Fuck, there was another point I wanted to make. Oh, apparel.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, that's another area that you'll start to see us do more, that we're going to go through lots of learning curves. We already have. But scalable is if you can manufacture your own apparel instead of having to go out and source it, then you can sell lots at the same amount of time it takes to sell little. So stay tuned for that.
And without question, like, we're going to swing for the fences and try to be really good at it early.
Yeah.
But it'll get better, and we'll be better at it as we go along. And
like, it might
hopefully,
be in the beginning, one piece at a time, but I'd like to get to a point where we have a whole lineup or drops of multiple batches of apparel, stuff like that.
one thing that I keep in my mind that blows my mind, and I don't know how to balance this, right? We listen to, and this is one guy that we both listen to is Scott Galloway, who's a professor, but, like, I've heard this from a million different angles, that at the end of life, people are like, one thing I wish the number one regret is I wish I'd been easier on myself. So I kind of balance, like, how to feel about this, but, like, we don't. There have been many, many days where we don't feel like we're doing our best, right? As a team, Gnarly Hustle as a company isn't doing our best, or individually we as people aren't doing our best, or if you're being honest, you think somebody else on the team isn't doing their best. And that happens all the time on every team, probably ever in the history of mankind. But still, and again, I'm sure this doesn't come with a lot of empathy. People coming in and seeing an insect somewhere, or seeing something out of place, or seeing one of us not in the best state.
Yeah.
And then giving us empathy and not going and making a bad review. But through 4 years of struggle and strife and not feeling like we're fucking thriving and killing it every day, we don't have a single negative review yet.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's through no curation. That's just all organic. So, and so far, no one has, obviously, it's kind of weird to look at a business owner and say, is this your business? It fucking blows, and here's why. So that doesn't happen that often. But, like, so far, it's been overwhelming positive from the bar.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, it's been 90 fucking degrees and unbearable in here every day, because we are learning that our AC back here cannot keep up at all. We have an AC unit for just the bar space, and it can't be more than 3 degrees cooler than the outside.
Yes.
So, like, some people are coming here, they're sweating through their $2.50 hams for 4 hours, and it's like, I know that is an unacceptable experience, And 6 months from now, it won't be the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But those people we still have all positive reviews. Does that make sense?
Yes. And it kind of hit me when I was looking back at some of those throwback photos from when we first opened. Well, maybe I'll flash some of the pictures up. No one gave us a bad review when we first opened, but I look back and I'm like, why?
Like, why didn't we get a bad review?
Yeah. There were lots of, I call them refrigerator comments. Like when your kid gives your mom a drawing and she's like, that's beautiful, and puts it on the fridge. It's a piece of shit drawing, but you have to tell your kid good job. So like, I realized that's the majority of those good comments had to have been refrigerator comments.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking back at the store and I'm like, I wouldn't think this was like an overwhelmingly positive experience.
Yeah.
But I did not feel like I got the same type of comments, attaboys, this is amazings, during this grand opening as we did in the beginning. Felt more genuine. People weathered through like heat and stuff. I got the sense that it connected with people a lot more than the store previously had. Like it's at a tipping point where I think a lot of the great comments aren't just because like their friends or family are doing cool things or this is impressive, but it actually, if we were just strangers, they would still spend money and come here. That's the difference.
There's not many people who would have thought, all right, vintage store in downtown Raytown. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's going to be successful.
Yeah.
I can see that going well. They'll be open for 15 years.
That's true.
Almost no one thought that, right? Like, I've got that reactions from friends, family, all along this whole time. Very few saw something further than that, including, it's hard to see through that.
Yeah.
Even for us. Now, when you walk in, it is 1,000 times easier to see. I feel like even if they're not like, all right, they're going to be successful, they'll be fine, the business is going to be open for 10 or 15 years, this now makes sense where it didn't. Mm-hmm. They're like, if it doesn't work, it's because it's not in Raytown. Like, great idea. If it doesn't work, it wasn't right place, right time. But, like, at least it was a good idea. So, like, in the arm wrestle of public opinion, and this is just within our own friends and family and communities. At least that's what I'm deriving it, right? Like, this is me reading the reactions off of the people when I tell people things. I think that significantly we probably looked a little stupid opening this.
100%. No,
and now some people are like, all right, I get a little bit. Maybe this makes a little bit more sense.
It's genuinely laughable. The state of the store when we opened.
Yeah.
That like not that like it didn't look terrible, but anybody with common sense would have been able to look at it and be like, there's no way in hell that they'll be able to walk away with any money.
And my Uncle Donnie used to, like, for the first 3 years we were open, he'd be like, man, you guys sell enough of this stuff, stay open? Like, that literally, and he's the type of guy who says the quiet thing out loud. It runs in the family, and Donnie has the gene. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty transparent that it was like, how is this working? And for a long time, it wasn't. If the River Market didn't exist, it wouldn't have.
Yeah.
We would have gone out of business. We would have failed to be able to pay rent. And now we're not going to the River Market at this current pace. Now, a lot of things have changed. But anyways, that's kind of it. How we've gotten here. There's two things I want to do before we go. One is, I think we have to acknowledge that this is the product of a shit ton of people and a shit ton of man hours and time and effort. And like, there's 5 partners in Gnarly Hustle. All of them were involved in this and have been integral. And like, literally, without all of them at different parts and multiple different parts throughout the period of this, we wouldn't have been able to get here. Like, I can say that with absolute certainty, that if you take that Jenga piece out of the timeline of the last 4 years, it all falls apart. And the best part now about some of the changes that we've had is that everybody's got a better half. So there was actually 10 people that were essentially working around here as owner-operators, getting us ready. And so those people, like, absolutely crushed it. And Alex and I are here every day. We make all the content. So we're the ones kind of behind the in the front of things. We're the foremen, the front guys of this thing. But there's definitely a lot of people that are behind us. Alex doesn't get to go to Europe for 2 weeks right after we open a bar without having a pretty big community, which we got.
For sure.
So that's a huge thing. And then the other thing is like, let's look forward a little bit, right? So now that this bar exists, we used to only look forward on this podcast. I don't want to spend all the time looking back. Let's look forward a little bit. What are you most excited about? For me, tomorrow night is trivia night. That's going to be fun. It's going to be hotter than hell. Probably this is not going to air before that, but I'm very excited for Chiefs games.
Yeah.
That's something we have been thinking about and sitting in those thoughts in this space for years. We're close to Arrowhead. We love the Chiefs. It's a huge thing. How do we monetize that, and how do we turn them into events?
Yeah, I'm definitely. We've done every Super Bowl here. It's been cool to do it privately and like have the whole space to yourself. But I can't wait till there's 40 other people here.
Yeah.
Drunk and screaming at the TV and celebrating another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So like that's if we can win another Super Bowl here, that'd be cool.
Yep, that would be very cool. So Chiefs games sound exciting to me. And I think, like, honestly, events and content are the way that we figured out that as a business you can boost things. So those are the two levers that you can push as much as you have the wherewithal to do. So those are the things that we're going to do. And I just think the Chiefs are our first kind of like events. And a bunch of people already asked us about Chiefs games here since we've opened the bar. So I'm pumped about that. Live music, comedy. We haven't had comedy here yet. We've never done that. I know that we will in the near term.
For sure.
So that should be fun. I'm excited about some crazy events. I have like the 3-on-3 basketball tournament is something that I think in my mind sounds as dumb as opening a fucking vintage store in downtown Raytown. But the payoff is going to be awesome.
I've been telling people about it for like a year, but I've gotten a lot of excited feedback.
Tingle a couple of the right palms and get a couple pieces of paper signed, and then we will be off to the races for that. And it's probably not going to be until next year at this point, but that's just one of the things I've been thinking about. Adult prom was like the catalyst of all this shit. We're going to smash the fuck out of adult prom.
Yeah.
Now that we can do it without being threatened with felonies.
It's going to be the tits.
Taylor Swift, when she drops a new album, we've got some ideas. I don't know if we'll be able to execute them that quickly, but we're going to fucking try. So, anyways, lots of events, lots of content. Come check out Gnarly Hustle Wednesday through Sunday, 12 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
See you later.
Peace.